All right, welcome back. Well, we are turning our attention now to security-related matters while awaiting the ministerial list, the big list. Well, now we've got Honorable Dio Bush Alebioshu, who was a former member of the House of Reps, and we also do have Mr. Dennis Amachree, who was from Assistant Director with the SSS. Gentlemen, thank you for coming in this morning.
Good morning.
Well,
thank you for
yes, the approach that we're going to have today, as we anticipate this list, is such that the SSS, they screen all of these candidates. They screen politicians who are contesting for elections. Again, by in case you're thinking about that. that happens on a regular basis.
Yes.
The lawmakers themselves, they all call it screen the ministers. When the list comes to them, we all know what to do. So these two institutions, they have a huge role to play when we speak about the ministerial list. But concerning security on the about this list, the president, while he was giving his speech, did raise some security comments. He made some comments concerning security. And he says that if we could just see that come up here. There you go, gentlemen, about the president speaking on security-related matters here. So, okay, so that's what he was talking about, the next 4 years. The next 4 years will remain committed to improving the lives of people by consolidating efforts to address the key issues as well as emerging challenges of climate change, resettling displaced communities, and dealing decisively with new flashes of insecurity across the country and the impact of food scarcity and regional stability. But well, we all know what's going on, but when he refers to them as flashes of security, perhaps in a certain context, let me just ask now, looking at the challenges we're facing in the country at the moment, we know that internal security, some countries refer to that as homeland, so internal security is very important. From your perspective, let me start with you. Are you satisfied, or if you were to assess those who are managing the security architecture in the country at the moment, as we await this list, how would you rate them?
Am I satisfied, or how would I rate them?
Whichever way, how would you rate?
Okay, when you look at the insecurity situation in the country, it's worrisome. Everybody is worried about it. The security agencies are seriously working under the tight situations that they are operating to make sure that they crack what is going on. But all the same, I like what the president has just said, and that is fundamental, whereby he's trying to address environment, he's trying to address food, and unemployment and stuff like that. Because when you come to look at security, basically we always address the symptoms of what insecurity breeds. There's an attack in this, somebody has been kidnapped, and then we try to send 30,000 policemen to go and take care of it, and that is not it. What should be is to address the root causes of why these things are happening. And if we go to all those causal factors, then we should be able to solve the problem. And that's what he's saying, and I hope that he will stay with it, have that political will to stay with it, and then, if he does that, then we should be able to. If the employment situation is solved, then people will be too busy to even think about who they are going to kidnap.
In other words, you don't think we have a grasp of what the real issue is?
No, I think we now do, because for him to address those causal factors that breeds insecurity, it means that he's been advised properly on what is causing them. When even the Niger Delta case was going on, I told some of my colleagues, we cannot solve this problem if we don't solve the environmental problem of that area. So, don't deal with the symptoms, deal with the root causes, and then we should be having some.
What's your view?
First of all, we need to understand that these issues of insecurity didn't start today. When you consider government policies, which talks about cashless and things like that, It's actually shown clearly that kidnapping is the most lucrative criminal business today. When it started several years back, foreigners, they started kidnapping foreigners. They were thought to be the money bags. We all didn't pay adequate attention then. We thought, well, they were Nigerians. It got to a point when all the foreigners were not available to be kidnapped anymore. The whole thing turned on to us, to the citizenry. You now find out that there's a lot going on. We have insecurity, yes, but at the forefront is kidnapping. You're kidnapped for ransom. You hardly hear of armed robbery right now, because a lot of people I don't carry cash, you don't carry cash. So the best thing to do is hold on to somebody until they're able to pay the kind of money you want. However, they have gotten ruthless over time, you know. You find out that how well equipped are the policemen who are in the communities. When you visit a lot of area commands or police stations, and you look at the conditions under which they work, you would understand that there is no way on earth the best will be gotten. Now, when every year the function of the duties of a legislator is to make laws, oversight, and to legislate, you find out that you think, all the monies allocated, where did they go? That's number one. Another issue from even within the legislature is those who are appointed as chairmen of these committees, what is their understanding of how things run? If you appoint a chairman or the membership of a committee based on wanting to balance or take care of political sentiments, we would always run into troubles.
But you know, if I could jump in there.
Of course.
You know, that those who blame both institutions.
Correct.
Saying you both, for that institution,
correct,
you both have responsibilities and should share the blame.
Absolutely.
In whatever is going on in the country today. Because if you properly screen those persons, and if there are people who are qualified, perhaps they could do a lot better. The same ditto for House of Assembly, National Assembly. So people then think that, is it that these two institutions are usually beholden to the president, that even if or when they find them wanting or there are questions about whoever is being brought forward by the presidency to head the security architecture, if there are questions, you don't bring it up? Is that a fair comment? Isn't it?
Well, one thing we should understand is that when security agencies vet or do background checks on political appointees and then submit it to the consumer, in this case maybe the president, he will also take that information and then add maybe some political decisions to it, because he will not take it wholesale, and because of other variables, factors that affect that appointment. I'll give you an example. There was a time when I was in service, we vetted the politician, and when we submitted the report, he was not fit to be somebody that they are for that particular appointment. But a political decision was made that, oh, there is nobody from his area that has come up before, and you know, with this, we should let him go. And the person was appointed. So you find out that there are many, many factors, you know, that come to play when political appointments are made.
What do you expect of it? Because we're expecting the ministerial list anytime from now.
Yes.
Will a change...
You know something with those?
Will a change in who is the defense minister have any impact, or by extension, the service chiefs? Will a change in all of those apparatus bring about better management of the security challenges that we face?
Now, one thing about security agencies is that, you know, it is traditional and normal for them to promote within themselves. You know, so if this set of service chiefs are retired, then, you know, the next set would come from within, either from the Army or Air Force or wherever.
I said nothing's going to change.
No, new people, new ideas, new blood, you know, so it's not a matter of nothing is going to change.
Honorable Aliyu, you are smiling.
Are they politicizing security?
You're smiling.
No, the reason I'm smiling is because, I mean, what he said really hits the spots on. I've always said something about for the sustenance of democracy, for the sustenance of good government or good governance, quality of representation is very important. Now, when you throw, for example, to the legislature to screen ministers, what was used? What has, I mean, who did the screening from within? What is their training? How do you ask a medical doctor, for example, who is serving on the Committee on Security or National Security, to screen somebody? What is he going to use a stethoscope?
But the argument has been that when they are in the hollow chambers,
Correct.
they cease being anything else but Nigerians looking at the interest of Nigeria.
Correct.
So it doesn't really matter if it's a doctor serving in
How well
this committee or a...
How well equipped are you? How well
that has been the argument.
Yeah.
What should then be the ideal case now?
Usually, I served with several people. Some of them were used to be in service and came back into to be politicians, to be legislators. I've seen people from the EFCC. I served with a PhD holder who worked in the EFCC and came to the House. Fantastic fellow. He understood his onions. But sometimes when, how do you now balance this in a case? I mean, I'm just painting a picture. In a case where the most equipped person is in opposition, how do you now leave someone? I mean, this is where political issues now come to play. How do you now drop someone who is in the ruling party? Not because I'm a member of APC. It's always happened. It's become a tradition. How do you drop that person for somebody in the ruling
Which again
party?
begs the question of whether or not we prioritize governance above politics.
And that's why I have always said that the moment we're able to appreciate and recognize that this is politics and this is governance, then we would be able to put a lot of these things in place.
Let me bring you back to the current National Assembly, the 9th National Assembly. So after what we've seen and how the leaders emerged, do you think it is ever or is going to happen that the leadership tell the president, when you're submitting the list of the ministers, would you, Mr. President, with due respect, attach the portfolio that you want them to man as you send this list?
I remember that, I remember vividly that while we were in the House, before Femi Gbajabiamila became Speaker, when he was the leader, while we were in APC, I think, either ACN or APC, he had brought up, he had sponsored a motion asking that when screening, their portfolios should be attached. Then in the process of screening, you're able to, that will be one of the tools you deploy or employ while screening. Then you know that, okay, how come you're a broadcaster and you're not being screened to be Minister for Information, you're not being screened for Minister of Health or Works. You know, it makes it easier. And I hope that, I don't think that will hurt in any case. We've seen from the statement you just read out on the screen, when a man knows he has a problem, the problem is half solved. The nation has had that problem. Now you're not asking that, is the executive arm of government aware of these problems? Mr. President has spoken on behalf of the executive arm of government to say, we are aware of these problems and we're looking at solving these problems. You know, one of the things I've also seen is we shouldn't just leave it at the table of just the legislator, or the legislators or the executive arm. I think the organizations, the institutions, the lawmaking institutions must also come from within to help sort things out.
How do you mean?
If you put a Goliath as the Minister of Police, what about the guys who are actually doing the policing?
Yeah,
what is their relationship with the citizenry? You cannot
I get the point, but don't the lawmakers feel awkward when they're just doing blanket screening. How do they even prepare to screen some of the ministers? They look at their CV and ask them questions based on their CV, because their CV doesn't mean that that's where they're going to go eventually. So how come they don't even raise that? Do you see that changing this period?
That's why I had asked how well equipped. The question we should ask ourselves is, how well equipped are the lawmakers doing the screening? How well equipped? What yardstick? What do they use? Well, I mean, you just, from what you've just said now, it goes back to reflect what's going on. So I think the pressure now should be on asking the lawmakers. It makes it easier. In the past, Gbajabiamila was in opposition. When he raised that motion in the House, it was seen as, oh, Femi was, Gbajabiamila was opposing. Speaker, so now that he's speaker,
should he be putting his money where his mouth is?
Absolutely.
And tell the president,
I don't think
attach those names?
Oh, yes. I think, you see, to get things done, while I was in the House, I think I even made more friends in opposition, or while we were in opposition, because for you to, if you want your motions and your bills to fly, it's about how many nays you have.
Well, Mr. Amachree, a lot of people don't underestimate security and SSS. Those guys know a lot about what's going on, but does the department ever advise the president on this kind of matters?
That's what they do.
Oh.
That's what they do.
Okay.
On a daily basis. On a daily basis, they advise the president.
And do these councils usually come with some of those causative agents, causative factors you mentioned the other time?
Oh yeah, definitely, definitely. Apparently, when I heard that statement that was flashed on the screen, I knew that somebody must have talked to him, and definitely it must be the SSS, because see, when you don't deal with the causal factors, it becomes like treating the symptoms, and that is what we need to do now, because we have to either go in there and then, of course, fix them. If there's unemployment all over the place and kidnapping, you can see that there's a trend analysis that could, be working together, and you don't want a situation where that overcomes the national problem.
Let me also borrow a similar question, because if they're screening those who are going for this ministerial appointments, the SSS now, do they just do general screening? I'm not saying you should give us key details.
No,
but
or
do they screen specifically? Say, if this man is going to be the Minister of Interior, this is a very crucial point. He cannot, based on certain things.
Yes.
Go ahead.
I was anticipating that question.
Oh, okay.
There are two different kinds of screening that are being done by the SSS and by the legislators in the Senate. What the SSS does is go ahead and do a positive vetting which encompasses the background of the subject, where we go in and find out all about your, background, when you went to school, whether your certificates are correct.
How come you don't share this with us, the media?
No, but this is, it's a normal thing. When you actually do a background check on somebody, companies do that. Companies do that. You check all these things and make sure that that certificate is presenting is not a Toronto certificate.
But how does the SSS miss some of those? We've seen some ministers who eventually, had to take a bow and leave the position because certificates were not right.
Like I told you, some of these things are discovered. The SSS will not go and tell you, this person is not fit, don't take him. This person is fit, take him. Okay? We do the intelligence report and submit it to the president, and we tell, I know in their report it will be included that this guy's certificate is not correct. Okay. And then, of course, in taking the decision, they could overlook that certificate part of it. That's why sometimes you see situations where, somebody's certificate was faulty and he has to take a bow.
Okay, well, we will take a break now and come back in a moment. All right, welcome back. So, gentlemen, as we wind down now, perhaps, I don't know if you want to refer to this amorphous cabal in a manner of speaking, but when we ask what kind of person would you like to see heading the Ministry of Interior?
Well, Nigeria, for one, does not lack skills and well-qualified, experienced people. But you know, the variables of politics, political party affiliation, and all those kind of things will come, ethnocentric decisions. But if we are looking for somebody who should head the internal affairs ministry, it should be somebody that is vast. Somebody, if possible, from the security agencies. You know, somebody who have, because one favorable thing about the security agency is that they go into all kinds of aspects of the country. And somebody who knows the country very well, who has served in very, very top capacity, should be able to be appointed, and then the person should be able to handle it properly. But in our country here, even the legislature cannot do much because their CVs are not attached to the people that are being submitted for vetting. So you don't know who will turn out to be this thing. But I think the guiding principle should be putting round pegs in round holes, no matter where the person comes from. There are people living overseas, you can call them back.
But will politicians allow this happen without playing politics over governance?
Well, we're getting to the point where we appreciate that when the heavens fall, it falls on everybody. We're getting to that realization, and understanding that we can only help in taking those decisions. But like you had said, like the former director had said, it's important to know who you're screening and what you're screening them for. We've seen an appointment made by, I think it was President Obama, the general who was gifted in the field of strategy. And by the time he retired as a general, he was appointed to be the director of the state security. Yes, he had some issues. We have fantastic minds. I had thought of somebody, even though I'm trying to shy away from individual names, but we have to give it to some individuals, as the former commissioner of police here, MD Abubakar, who rose to become IG. We saw what happened in Lagos in terms of security while he was here. He did a fantastic job, moved on to become IG. I don't think he was IG for more than 2 years, if I'm right. But within that time frame, he did a fantastic job. You begin to wonder, should we let such people with the wealth of experience and the talent they have go to waste? Well, I'm sure there are a lot more like that. How do we bring them on? How do we bring people like that on board? Not just in the area of security, but across the board. How do we mix it up and get the required results? So
that's how far we can go. So perhaps some of the take-home would be, while the Speaker, Honorable Femi Gbadebamida, was in opposition, you said he brushed that topic, or did he champion it, that they should attach the portfolios that the ministers will be screened for?
It makes screening easier.
So who knows? Will that happen this time? Because all eyes will be on him to see whether or not that happens. But gentlemen, Mr. Dennis Amachree, former Assistant Director with the SSS, and Honorable Femi, I beg your pardon, Honorable Dio Bush, former member of the House of Reps. So he knows to have our eyes on him now with that, doesn't he? Thank you, gentlemen, for coming on this morning.
Thank you for having us.
Oh, that's the show today. Thank you all for watching. I'm Chamberlain Uso.
I'm Gimba Omar.
I am Makinde.
And Maokwe Ogun Yusuf, thank you.
The views and opinions expressed by guests on this program are those of the maker and do not reflect the views, opinions, and endorsement of Channels Television.